Hello, Daisy.
Hi, Shira.
How are you?
Great. But
I'm well. God, I can't believe we're 2 weeks into the year already.
that's fast.
It's crazy, right?
Easy.
I
You
know.
blink it, it's gone. So live each moment, live every day. So that's what I think.
100%. 100%. Well, I am
Well,
so excited to be back.
welcome back to episode 2, everybody. Today we are actually going to talk about how the investment companies are making in AI might just be the one they'll regret. Here's what we know. Capital is rushing into AI faster than organizations can absorb. Companies are embedding AI into strategies, budgets, announcements, but humans haven't embodied the change. Today we're going to measure, we're going to talk about, are you measuring the return on investment or return on intention? What do you think, Cheryl?
Hmm. It's a really good question, Daisy. I mean, let's ask the question. How many AI tools did companies announce that they were going to put into their organizations just last year, right? Or even this year now, right? How many do we think are actually being used the way they were intended? And the harder question, did anyone ask if these organizations were ready to actually absorb and embody what they were going to do?
So true. I've heard a few companies talk about that or have experienced that. So companies racing to announce AI first strategies, I see that a lot, are creating external expectations they can't deliver on internally. And AI is watching the gap form in real time. And this is also visible. And that's why everything needs to be genuine and real. The market sees your AI story before your employees can even live it.
Hmm. So here's the question. Are we already in an AI bubble? Billions has been invested, trillions has been committed, and are we moving faster than we're ready? I'm not questioning whether AI is real. Okay, let's be true about this. It's real. I get that. I use it every day. Okay? It's amazing. And can it really be absorbed at the pace that it's being bought? Because this is what's really crazy. And I am so excited because our first guest of our new podcast, LinkedIn Live, whatever we're calling it, is a dear friend. Our guest today has spent 2 decades helping organizations navigate exactly this tension. Josh Allen Dykstra is an optimistic futurist, I love that, who believes making sense of what's next starts first and foremost with getting your humans right. He literally wrote the article, Is There an AI Bubble? Josh was the founder of Love Work, that's where we met, a culture building tech platform designed to help people love work through habit formation. Now, here's the thing Josh, we had a lot of conversations about this, deliberately chose not to add AI because AI is built on biased data. And what we were doing is building psychological safety. We're going to talk a lot about this. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. So delightful, as always, to see you, Shara, and to be with you, Daisy. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. So I'm going to open it up to you, my friend. What do you think? Is there an AI bubble?
I mean, I think unquestionably there is a bubble, just because of what you mentioned. Like capital has just rushed in to this game, and I think of it as a little bit like there's an old business story about retail space where someone the store across the street put in an escalator. And then it was like, oh my goodness, now we need an escalator. And now the store next door needs an escalator. Like everyone now needs escalators. And so we're not really questioning why we need it or like whether, right, we just do because you have it now and now I need it. And so it's like this rush in. We all know we need AI, right? Like there's this sense, right? We need the escalator, right? Like I can't not have it. So it's AI, I think is the same. And the capital part of this, right, is kind of what determines the bubble or not. I think, yeah, this is really like we're building faster, I think, than the real gains are going to show up. So for me, the question really isn't even if there's a bubble. It's kind of like what's going to happen on the other side of it.
Okay.
Right? And so I think if we study history, what we find is that some bubbles pop in a really dramatic way, right? So we've got bubbles. So we look at like things like the railroads, and we look at the .com, right, is the one we probably all remember. Like
Yes.
it was pretty big, it was pretty dramatic. But then
Right.
you've got other things that were also ostensibly bubbles throughout history, things like telecom, and right where it's like radio. And these things, they were bubbles of their time, but they didn't pop in a dramatic fashion. They just kind of like dissolved and got assimilated. So I think the question that we do know is that, yeah, I think there's probably a bubble in here, right? Like capital is rushing in to build this on speculation that it's going to eventually catch up with real gains. What we don't know is like just how dramatic it's going to pop, right? Like, is it going to be a big dramatic thing like .com, or is it going to be kind of like where we just assimilate it and absorb it over the next couple of decades, like radio was or telecom? So that's what we have yet to see. I think. What do you guys think about that?
I don't disagree with you. I think the financial part of it is one thing, right? And it's what is the expression? The dog wagging the tail wagging the dog kind of thing, right? So I don't want to get into that whole conversation about who owns what and who's putting money into what and that financial thing, because that frightens me. But I wonder, and what we're seeing, and we're going to talk about this later, right? And I saw my friend Bill, hi Bill, just talked about Accenture going big into VR. Okay, well, where we, we all thought we'd be wearing those big ugly glasses and living our vacations online. I think what I'm seeing and where my concern is the expectation of what is needed. And I want to go back even, because this was what, 2.5 years ago, Josh, when you were talking about the data bias, right? And how do we assume, and I say this all the time, Daisy and I kicked off our first workshop yesterday, which is really exciting. And I talk about this all the time. If I go into ChatGPT and I ask it a question, and then I say, okay, now answer that as a woman, right? As a woman of color, you're going to get different answers, because the assumption, no offense to all of you out there, is that it is white, straight Christian men, right? That's the bulk of the data comes from, right? So that's my greater concern, especially as we look at trying to break down those barriers at work and humanistically. And I'd love to know, I know you have an opinion on this, but I would love for you to voice it, because I think that's the divide that I see happening, not just the job loss or the potential job loss or the money. That to me is the most scary bit.
Yeah, I think that's very, very real. I think one of the things that I think we have learned about this technology, or at least that I've learned in the last couple years around this technology, is just how it works, right? So GPTs, so what we're typically calling AI, that most people are interfacing with, we're kind of conflating these terms, right? So we're generally talking about a GPT like large language model, like Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or something like this, right? Like that's how most people are interfacing with AIs these days. So I think it's important for people to just understand that if you don't already, right, that this is a specific kind of artificial intelligence called a large language model. That's what LLM stands for. And the way that this works is that it works because we've trained it on all of the data on the internet, to kind of to your point, Shara. And that data is somewhat inherently biased because of who wrote it, right? And right? So I think all of that's true. I think what's important for people to understand about this particular technology is that, and this becomes important when it comes to understanding questions like quality and accuracy and lack of bias, is that these things they're not, the way that they're designed is not to be a factual engine, right? This is not a search engine. This is a probability machine, right? So
wow, like that.
The way that they work, it's something nerds like me call autoregressive, which just means that they predict the next word by looking at the last word. That's how this works. And it's magical how fast and well and almost like poetic many times it does this, right? Because it has access to so much language, it can create really good probability that this is a sentence that is coherent and cohesive and, even poetic and wise sometimes. But I think what people need to understand that this is probability, right? These things work on probability. So the things we call hallucinations,
Correct.
right, I don't think is really the right word for it anymore. I think what we ought, like, this is really just how these machines work. Right? We need to we call them hallucinations when we expect GPTs to behave like calculators and not make errors. But that is not what kind of machine this is. It's a statistical probability machine. And when you understand it like that, you can actually start to appreciate these things not as hallucinations or factual errors, but as kind of an inherent creativity in the machine, because it's using kind of these statistics. That's why it comes up with different stuff every time you ask it, right? It's kind of reconstituting, recompiling. And so if you use that there's a way to use that to your advantage and not be frustrated, right, that it's not being factual. So if we can kind of start to understand that this is not a calculator type machine, this is more of a creative probability machine, then I think we start to really understand more of the utility of this thing. So that's one piece. I'll pause there and just see if you guys want to interject.
I think Daisy
anything on
wants to
that.
jump in for sure.
Thank you for that, Josh. I actually just did an exercise. So with my space, I'm in the AI visibility world right now. That's my niche. I do marketing, but I focused on the AEO piece of it. And search engine optimization. For those that don't know what AEO means, it's really how can you be visible in the LLMs, in AI. And you're right. It's a probability machine, meaning that it will look for certain triggers for you to scour your digital footprint, right? Whether it's your website, your LinkedIn profile, whatever it is that AI is allowed to crawl into, and you allow AI to crawl into those spaces. So where we have control over our own entity and our own narrative, basically, to be recommended by AIs to our websites and our own writings and our own content that we create. AI will have its own narrative. And like you said, so I smile because I did this exercise incognito to find out about lumapath.ai, which is the website that I use to promote AEO. And it kept coming back to me with lumopath. And I kept saying Luma, even though I put the actual hyperlink for the website, it's still coming back as lumapath.co. It was picking up some other name. And I was testing it. This is through Gemini, by the way. And then I finally said, no, it's still wrong. I said, I am the owner of lumapath.ai. And then it corrected. I said, I've been giving you the correct hyperlink. Why do you keep getting it wrong? To your point, you have to tell it that you're getting it wrong. People expect that we will get it right. It's not. Right. And Kira's point on yesterday's session is that it's a child.
It's a child.
You have to teach it. You have to speak the language. You have to tell it exactly the directions. If I just kept putting the same thing, try again, it just keeps going in circles. And then when I finally address that you keep going in a circle and you're not giving me the right answer, now you know who I am. It apologized to me and says, AI got you confused, and I'm sorry for my hallucination snowball.
Wow.
It itself out. And then it says, now I understand what you're saying. I said this, then because it asked me, actually, this is probably a good case study for you as owner of AEO and lumapath.ai to use myself as case study that I have a Luma blur effect. And it basically let me use me right now that these are things that are going to happen when they do a search, and that might not get the right answer. And it's not because you don't have the entity written properly to be identified, but because it's my own internal incapability. But you have to correct me as a child, basically, is what I heard. So anyway, created my own case study, which I'm going to use so that people know that it's not what I'm doing, it's how you talk to AI. Makes sense? So, I got excited about that.
Yeah.
So So what is point two, Josh?
Yeah. So I think the other thing to understand is that there will be future technologies, coming that will kind of address the shortcomings of LLMs, right? So we're already starting to hear some of the leading thinkers and system designers of these systems starting to say, yeah, well, I'm moving on to the next frontier is this and next one. So like the I don't know if he's still at Meta, but there's a guy named Jan LeCun, and he talks a lot about, he's kind of like over LLMs, so to speak. He's like, I'm moving on to the next thing. And I can't remember his phrase for it, but it's basically like, it's more about visual, right? So it's more about processing. So whereas LLMs process the world through language, it's more about, this is going to be more about processing the world through like visual data and like what you're looking at. And so that's going to add a whole other lens of, so if you can imagine just how an LLM processes the world through all of the language we've gathered, if we could process the world through visual data, just how much more accuracy that will bring to these models. So I think that's where this goes is we won't have, quality control problems. We won't have accuracy problems within, I don't know how many years, but it's coming. Right. Well, we'll be able to it'll fact check in these other ways, and it'll bring more accuracy to these things. So, so just for people to understand, I think that's where this goes, right? Because to our earlier point, there's so much money being committed to these projects, right? Like this just is not going to go away. Like tech companies are determined to make this work, and they believe they can. Right. Which just means like we do have to know how to adapt to this in our organizations, because it really is not something that's going to go away like VR did. Right. Like I don't think that's the kind of comparison that we're looking at with AI.
I think it's interesting though, that what comes to mind for me, the money's been committed, and it's been committed in a way globally that we can't ignore. Right. Yeah. There have been a lot of podcasts and a lot of articles about the fact that this could destroy the economy if any of this falls apart. Right. Because how it's all being maneuvered. That said, I think what's different in this case than the .com era or whatever is a little bit what you said about the escalator at a much more impactful level, which is number one, and this is what we talked about in the intro, right? Are companies really understanding what they're getting into? Is it and Josh, you and I had these conversations 2.5, 3 years ago, which is, why isn't there AI? Why isn't there AI? That wouldn't have changed the game, right? That wouldn't have made a difference. Is it really going to make a difference for an organization to implement AI? Is it, again, what is wagging what here, right? What is really, so are companies saying, yes, we want to get into the AI game. Okay, we see the value. Are we ready? So I always talk about this when I do my consulting work, right? I say, what problem are you trying to solve, right? This is the first question I ask. Why are we sitting here, and what problem are we trying to solve? And they tell me, and I say, great. Why is that the problem? Is that the loudest noise in your organization right now? Is that what you're solving for? Because if that's what you're solving for, that may not be the right problem to solve. And I'm wondering if this, in some respect, isn't the same, that this is the loudest noise in the room right now. And so what's happening, right? How do we ensure success? And we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but how are the people inside these companies dealing with the fact that this is moving at this pace and they don't feel supported? And, I can only imagine you have thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I think it's a big challenge. I really do. I feel for folks inside organizations that are trying to make big AI transformations right now, because I do think there's a lot of things wagging this dog, and it's like it's the tail, and it's geopolitics, and it's over here, and it's right. Like there's a whole bunch of things wagging this poor dog, and it's hard to even discern what's wagging what, to your point. And so I feel for folks, if you're in these kinds of situations, it's just going to be I think one thing is just to recognize that it is going to be a challenging period of time. Like
Yeah.
I talk about this a lot, right? We are just in a challenging season of history, is my
Right.
belief. That we are, I like to call this the winter season of
Mhm.
things. This
Mhm.
is when we see a lot of kind of death of old systems. And no matter what kind of death we talk about, it's hard, right? It's just a challenging thing.
Is this when you talked about the fourth turning? We talked about this.
Yeah.
Didn't you read a book about that? I remember we talked about it a while ago.
Yeah, I did an episode on it too, not too long ago. If that helps people kind of understand what, yeah, it gets a little bit deeper into this theory of kind of seasonal cycles of
Mhm.
humanity, and that
Mhm.
the kind of the crux of it is like right now, like we are kind of right in the crisis zone of when humanity kind of goes through a crisis and does a reset, and so if things feel crunchy right now, I think that's why. I think a
Yeah.
lot of us we feel it kind of biologically, like, deep in our spirits. You're not imagining this, right? You're not alone in this if you feel this way. Um, it is a challenging time systemically
Mhm.
for us, for
Right.
our species globally. And so this filters into our organizations too. And then you kind of layer on top of that a really disruptive technology like AI. And yeah, it's no wonder, if people are feeling discombobulated by this. You'd be strange if you didn't, right? Like that would be what would be strange.
So we normally go ahead, Daisy. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, that really resonates, Josh. I just want to acknowledge that.
Mm,
Not about being spiritual. It's about, your external is changing. And with coming in of AI, people are starting to grasp how big AI, like you mentioned, how big AI is going to be, how big it really is, and how are we adapting to it, not just at work, but in our daily lives, right? The changes that it's it's affecting us, but really people just need to understand that it's a tool, that it's not a robot that's going to take over the world. I think there's a misconception of that because we've commercialized it to showing androids being half human, half robot, right, with AI, but it's just something in the box in our computers. It's not, I mean, there are robots walking around, but it's not, the human elements seem to be there. I always call it the human in the loop. We ask it a question, we tell it what we want it to do, it gives us an answer. The human has to then accept that information or not accept that information or take it as its Bible and run with it. But how you run with it, it's also going to be to your core, whether it's truthful or not, but how you give the information also is what's going to give back. So discernment is very important. And I think that's where humanity is trying to figure out, do I run with the wind with everything it tells me? But you have to put action into it too.
mm,
So there's that confusion. And we go
yeah,
through that daily. I go through that daily when talking to it. And I have to also look at the
yeah,
information it gives me and go, is it the information that I need? Is it information that I then want to pass out to other humans, right? And so
mhm,
I think if that's what you're talking about, I'm going through that every
yeah,
day.
yeah,
Because I have to also use it responsibly for how
yeah,
to the service that I do and how I relay my message or what I want the world to hear about.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. One piece of one piece of this that I think might be helpful for listeners, it's helped me, is to kind of understand a couple things. So, this particular technology is really disrupting what we call the white collar workforce first,
Yes.
right? So many kind of tech kind of disruptions of the past kind of hit our blue collar workforce. This one
Mhm.
first, right? And primarily white collar
Mhm.
folks were kind of insulated from some of those disruptions. This is going to be opposite, right?
Mhm.
So this really is coming after kind of the white collar class first. Like if you think about what does AI do really well, it does what white collar folks do really,
Mhm.
right? It makes PowerPoints and it makes images and it right, like does all of that. So that's the first thing to, I think, understand. The second part of that is for white collar folks who are listening to this. One thing I think is helpful to know is that your work is just going to change positions. So what I mean by this is that historically, right, your career has been making things, right? It's producing documents. It's coming up with, images. It's coming up with PowerPoint decks. It's right, like it's in the center, right? The making the thing has been the output of white collar work, right? Now, and in the very near future, like if it doesn't already, AI does this better than you, right? Like the making of the thing. Sorry, AI does it better and faster than you. So what is your job now? Your job moves from the center to the edges. And so what I mean by that is that your job now is setting up the thing and then confirming the thing, right? Let AI make the thing. Your job, I think to your point, Daisy, is to give it good context and guidance. And like, you need to set it up properly and give it lots of that, and then let it make it. And then you tell it, no, it needs to be more like this, or it needs, right? Like people are probably experiencing this as I'm saying it. I'm just giving you a model to like help you understand, like, this is actually what this is doing to your job. Like your job position is changing to the edges instead of the middle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. What it does is it inspires me, at least for me, right? Because what I'm finding is it's giving me so much more time and energy to be more creative, to think about things differently, to come up with other solutions and other ideas, to do things that I wasn't able to do in the past. So when I was, back in the tech industry, right, and I was out there as a solution architect talking to companies about buying HR technology, I spent an enormous amount of time building PowerPoint decks, right, researching, doing the most mundane thing. Now, Josh, you know this about me because we are strength scope folks, and you know what energizes me and what drains me. And I like to say, if you really want to crush my soul, if that's your intention, stick me in a room by myself and make me work on spreadsheets all day. I'm done.
Totally.
You know that.
True.
Right?
I can verify this. This is true.
So the idea that I don't have to do that, is a game changer for me. It's opening up things that I never thought I'd be able to do. Yeah. I think what people are so afraid of is the beginning of that conversation, which is it's taking away what you do. So great leaders are going to embrace that, right? That's why when we talk about you're going out as an organization and you're buying all this AI, what are you doing to prepare for that, right? Because if the intention is, I'm going to go get AI so I can fire 50 people, that's going to crush the company, right? And the morale and everything that goes with that. And it may be, listen, I've built enough business cases. I'm a value engineer. I know what it means to have to find ways of paying for things. I get that. Organizations go through change. However, if the intention is we're going to actually open up the opportunity for these people to do different things and grow and thrive in ways that they never imagined and prepare for that, that becomes a win-win. It gets people to embrace the technology in a way that they weren't afraid necessarily. They're going to want to, I talk about embedded versus embodied, right? I want people to embody what's coming and what they're doing in a way that will be very different. So I think that is the pivotal way that organizations can look at this differently, rather than this is how I'm going to save $50, right? This is how I'm going to get rid of whatever it is, right? I think that's critical. I think that could be an amazing transition across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think to your point, there's a couple ways to look at this for company leaders, right? They can say, we're going to use this as a cost cutting measure. Right. And certainly leaders are doing that. But to your point, I don't think that's the wisest way to do this. I think the wiser way is to say, look at what this unleashes for what we could build, what we could create, what kind of new value we could unlock for our customers. It's a completely different conversation, orientation. It's so much more inspiring. Like you can take that orientation and like, that's what company builders do best, right? Is to create more value for customers. So, now I think that the thing to note is if you take that path, right? And I hope lots of leaders listening to this take that path, right? Like there's so much more you can do. to create a better world for your customers. And you can use this technology to do that. But if you want that to happen, you're going to need to also shift the orientation to the way that you're leading your people, which I think is what both of you guys are saying, right? Because what I hear is if we want people to do that, right, knowing that the positionality of our jobs, right, moves from the center to the edges, then what that means is that your people actually need more space and time to think and process and be creative. To your point, Shara,
Yeah.
right? Like, and this is the problem with the modern organization is it leaves no space or margin or time for anyone to do anything, much less think.
Right.
Right. Like, right. But this is what we need from our humans at this moment. If you want to go down the growth path instead of the race to the bottom path, what you need is you need to create space for your humans to be able to develop their wisdom skills.
Right.
Right. Like humans are uniquely positioned to bring wisdom to this childlike technology. But they can't do that if they're in back-to-back meetings all freaking day. Right. If they have no space to do anything, right? They need margin, they need space. So I think that's a big one that comes up for me as we think about how to help this be embodied. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the big meta skills we're going to need to do. And companies just don't do that very well yet.
No.
The growth
No.
edge there.
Right.
So true. Nothing's really changed. AI came, but AI is a tool to help us. But what organizations have done is obviously with all these big companies that hyped up AI, that, scale up with AI, use all these huge automations. Then you got all these consultants coming in trying to do discovery. Oh, you need automation here and automation there. But what they're forgetting to ask is what Shira actually does is understanding who are your people, what are your processes, and what are your platforms that you use. Once you evaluate that inside part of it, it's not about the technology. You interject the technology in there, but it could be just a process flow between two departments that was never talked about, right? It could be just a button that they click to make something, a form go to somebody faster, and then customer service responds to it a lot better and faster to the consumer or their customers, right?
Yeah.
Client facing. And sometimes it's just, but people try to interject technology that's not needed. It's just communication at the end of the day. And even through what I'm saying, all it is communication. Like you said, people don't have time. They're all in meetings. They talk about stuff that they need to resolve, but they don't go to those people to help solve those problems. And those are internal. That doesn't require AI. That requires human interaction and smarts and business smarts to strategize internally. And then you interject AI where it's needed after those conversations are happening. That's my take on it. So what do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, I can confirm a bunch of that, Daisy, as someone who ran a tech company for half a decade. A lot of it isn't about tech, right? It's about, I think you said this earlier, Shara. It's like, how do you get really clear about the problem you're actually trying to solve? And that is like, tech should be that is so far down the chain and right, like, let's first get so clear, like, what are we actually trying to do here? I wish so many more of those conversations for our leader friends.
I do too.
We need way more of that.
It's so funny. You've heard me say this, Josh. When I was selling HR technology, and they would, I was competing against other big companies, and they would say, can your software do this and do this and da, 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 and why is this more expensive than that? And I said, let me just make it really clear here. To your point, Daisy, this is a tool, right? I can go out and I can buy the most expensive treadmill that exists on the planet. It could be solid gold. It could be encrusted with diamonds. It could have, a trainer yelling at me to get on and work out. If I throw my clothes on it and stick it in the corner of my room and never get on it, my butt's not getting any smaller, right? It's not working for me. And I think that analogy is this, it doesn't matter what it is, right? It is a tool. These are miraculous tools in the way that we're thinking of them. We're moving at a pace that is, it just seems like it's a runaway train, But if we put some logic to it, it's a very good thing that needs guardrails, as does everything, right? We don't want anything. I mean, what is it that anything in excess is bad? There's nothing in excess that's good for us. And so the question is, how are people going to get engaged in this process? So one of the things we do, Josh, is we call it the outside in view. And we go out and we look for, based on what we're going to talk about, what is the world saying about all of this, right? And so I found a fascinating Reddit article. I'm going to put it up here so people can read along with me for just a second. And I will put us off a little bit to the side here. But basically, it was someone who wrote, being forced to use an AI makes me want to leave the industry. And this was a software engineer after 15 years who is tired of the hype, right? And what does this mean? And I think it's a woman, because it was in the women's group, a women's engineer group on Reddit. And she started by saying, please don't respond if you just want to say good things about AI. There's probably other posts where you could do that. I've heard it all. I don't care. I'm tired. I've been a software engineer. I've done a lot of hype trends. I've seen a lot of hype trends come and go, but none so vast and disrupted in a bad way as AI. And then she goes on to talk about what the challenge is and what the organization is doing and forcing her to do the work, right? Again, to your point, there isn't the conversation around what is it that we want to talk about to ensure that somebody who's in tech, who's really good at what they do, is absorbing this and really getting engaged in the process of the new technology. And that's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels a little bit like we've got a lot of companies saying that we need an escalator, but our store is actually only one story.
Right? Oh, I love that.
Like,
maybe stealing that, Josh.
right?
Good one.
It's like we actually
Yeah.
we don't even have a second floor here. Why are we putting in an escalator, right? Like, so I hope that there's more, like, there needs to be a little bit more depth of question. And I get it, right? Like, we feel like we need it, but make sure you've got a use case.
Right. Well, that's why we call this, what are you going to regret, right? If you go out and you buy those. Now, I can say at an individual level, Daisy, you may want to chime in on this too. I've done the horrible thing of signing up for everything that comes in, right? Thinking, oh yeah, I'll cancel that tomorrow, and forgetting until I get the bill and they charge me the next month. I'm terrible at the visual creation of things. It's, doing images. I'm just not good at that. And so I signed up for, I'm going to blame Daisy for this, because this is her expertise and she's amazing. And she goes, well, I use this one and I use that one. And so now I have 30 of those that I don't know what to do with. I still don't know how to use them. But I think whether it's an individual or a major organization, I think they're just rushing, to your point, to say, I'm AI. I've got it. We're okay, right? We've got AI in McDonald's, I see it in the most ridiculous things that they're advertising. We're AI driven. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Is ChatGPT driving? Like, what?
Right. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true. AI, AI driven, AI automate, whatever it is that they use. It's really not that. It's so true. And then your internal team doesn't even know what it means that they're trying to, what are you servicing your clients with? So your marketing team's putting out this hype, putting out this buzz, so that you can be seen that you're on top of, the new technology that's out there. Yet the insights doesn't really even use any of that technology yet, or they haven't even implemented it yet. But marketing, and this is why the glass house that we have is like, you have to, everything needs to penetrate through that glass now. You can't hide from your marketing anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, because you're going to be found. And there's so much platforms for internal people, like you just found, Shira, about talking about their company. Not just that, but customers itself have more platforms to complain about you or brag about you, not just, your typical ones. So there's more and more areas that people are scouring to find the truth or not biased answers just by the company itself. I do it when I research a company, right? We all do it. So nobody's excluded from that. Even though you're big It doesn't mean that you can escape from it. People have their own discernments now. Before, they were limited in the information that they got. Now there's so much information that being authentic and true is where it's going to be critical.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we are very quickly rushing into a future where the BS detector of humans is going to go off the charts with this AI stuff, right? We're going to be buried in AI slop, and people are going to be like, I just want a human to help me solve my freaking problems. I don't, right? Like, I have a lot of critiques of capitalism, but this is something capitalism does well, right? When it's working well, it really helps people solve problems. And I think, yeah, the further we get from that kind of that orientation, this obsession with helping add value to people's lives, like if your company like moves away from that trajectory, like that, you are going in the wrong direction. And yeah, the fatigue around AI driven powered whatever it's going to get old, I think, for people real fast in the next couple of years.
You think that pendulum is going to start to shift, that
Yeah.
people are going to, well, that would be wonderful, because
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest challenges, you talked about it earlier, the discernment, right? I don't think people discern anything anymore. I think that we are so accustomed to, and I'm not going to go on a social media rant, but we're so accustomed to getting information in very, very specific ways. There, ways that are clearly focused on the things that are familiar to us and what makes us continue to stay engaged. And so is that where AI is going to continue to push us down that rabbit hole? That's what worries me, that those algorithms and that information is going to divide us more than it brings us together. And if people do start to say, you know what, I'm tired of this. I mean, I'll tell you an interesting quick antidote. Doing a lot of networking on LinkedIn, and I'm reaching out to people because as a new business, I'm really struggling with my emails going into spam. Right. I don't know if it happened to you, Josh, when I reached out, and we had this problem, but I found out that most of my emails are going into spam because it's a new domain. So I then started to send individual LinkedIn messages to people. Someone I worked with more than 10 years ago sent me a LinkedIn message, and I was so excited. I hadn't heard from him in about 7 or 8 years. And he was telling me what he was doing. And when I first read the message, I was like, this feels bottish. Yes. Because there was nothing personal in it. And I wrote back and I go,
I've had this experience
from you. What are you doing? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And I get back about a day later, another bottish, I'm making this up, I don't know what that's a word, message. And I wrote to him again and I said, John, listen, and he's selling real estate in the UK now or something. And I said, John, listen, I'm not your audience for this. I don't know what's going on here, blah, 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 blah. And I think even the last one wasn't exactly him. Now, the flip to that, and I need to go back and check it actually, now that we're talking about it, the flip to that was someone I also worked with a number of years ago who's in IT. We did an implementation together years ago. And I said, hey, Adam, what's going on? I'm chit-chatting with him. And he wrote back a couple things and he said, Shara, prove to me that you're not AI. Tell me something that AI wouldn't know. And I was like, really? And I said, okay. And I wrote something, there's no way AI would know this about our relationship, because the company that we have on our CVs, on our things, is not there anymore. It's a different company that changed names. So, and then I said something about the people we worked with that they would never know, right? A nickname that we had for somebody. So he was concerned about that, which was interesting. Yeah. And he's a tech guy, so I get it. But, I hope you're right, Josh. I hope we're moving in a more humanistic approach, because it's kind of not nice, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the transition is going to feel just absurdly messy. And I think if we remember what comes after winter, that helps, right? Spring always comes after the winter. We get to see new things bloom and new things are born, and but the winter is kind of cold and dark and it's messy. And I think that's kind of what we're going to feel for a little while. So just, I don't know that, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, and the transition is going to be messy because it is going to take jobs and it's going to disrupt a lot of people's lives. Um, and yeah, I can see a possible future here where it does open up the ability for humans to do human things more, right?
Yeah.
On my really optimistic days, right? And by the way, I'm not a born optimist, so I know I called myself this optimistic futurist thing, but I'm not a
Okay.
born, right? I wasn't born that way, right? Some people are born that way, right? Where they're like, glass is half full, rainbows, unicorns, sparkles, yay, like everything's fine. I'm just not that guy, right? Like, but I'm a chosen optimist because I think it's a better strategy for life. And I think it's a better strategy for creating a future we actually want, is to actually be optimistic that we can create something better. And so on my good days, I really see this possibility where it's like, let's let AI do all this crap that we don't want to do. That's fine, right? But if we can construct the world in that way, awesome. And then it leaves us more space and time to be creative and thoughtful and bring the wisdom, right? I can see that as a possibility. And I think a lot of us humans, we have to make choices now and in the very near future and we need to speak up and say, no, this is the kind of future we want. So we have to kind of be active participants in that. But I think we can help create that if enough of us want it.
I love that. We've had some great comments, and we've been talking away and haven't really talked about them. Josh, our friend Terry's on. Yeah. Hi, Terry. It's good to have you at least on the chat. And Stephen said, and I think it's so true, that he thinks everyone is rushing to make sure that they're not missing out. It's a FOMO situation, right? If you're the company that didn't say, I'm, as Bill said, powered by AI or whatever, I think there's this fear of, oh my gosh, nobody's going to hire me. Nobody's going to come if I don't say we're powered by AI somewhere. But, and to your point, the one story business doesn't need an escalator. I love that. I am 100%.
Well, there was a time, right, when every business felt like it needed to be .com, right? It was Amazon.com, and it was right, like everything was right. So like it will pass, right? Like that is kind of faddish, I think, but I do think that the tolerance for it is going to be less, right? I think the BS meter for humans is going to be sooner on this than it was because we're kind of like, we kind of get it now. We're like, all right, fine, like integrate the technology, but like we get it. It's table stakes now. You don't need to tell us that you're powered by. We're going to assume that, if you're going to create a business that solves my problems and you're not using AI, you're probably like off the rails.
Right. I heard somebody say something the other day. I was watching, I don't remember what I was watching, and they said, oh, the website is, and I don't want to spit take for you, Josh, because they said, actually, my website is www. And I went, no, you're not really. You're not really in 2026 saying www. Like, to your point.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, for educational purposes, those are watching, and because I'm in marketing, please use HTTPS.
If you're going to say it, or just in general.
Just in general, you don't even need that. Make sure that your website does that, though, that it recognizes just without any of the whatever www is or HTTPS is. So it really is. It's really education. Like a lot of it is education, right? And what they know or their lack of education within their own organizations, or just how they're absorbing and further getting their information from. So it's all about, we have to get to the right audience, I think.
Well, speaking of that, that's it's brilliant segue. Josh, I'm going to put you on the spot for just a little bit and talk about, I know you wrote a book many years ago that was fantastic, but a little birdie told me maybe there's another one coming.
There is. Yes. So 14 freaking years later, I'm coming up with book number 2. Now, and someone pointed this out to me, and I don't think this is actually a coincidence. The more I think about it, my oldest daughter is 13.
Yeah.
So I don't, this is hard, right? So these things are challenging. But yes, finally getting there with book number 2. My plan is to have it out this fall.
That's amazing. Wow. All right. You'll have to tell us all about it. You might as well ask, where can people find you? I know I have something here that I can share.
Yeah. Well, yeah, please, yeah, come if you're, I don't know where you're watching this, but if you're on LinkedIn or something, please find me on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time. That's probably where I'm most active. My website is joshallan.com. It's JOSHALLAN.com. And then, yeah, thanks for highlighting the podcast. This is getting a huge amount of my attention and love right now is the podcast. And it's called Hello Tomorrow, and love for you to check that out too. So yeah, come. I'm pretty much on all social everywhere, pretty much.
All right, which ones are you on? Which of the ones that we all have fun with are you on these days?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is probably my top one.
Okay.
But then I also am on for text-based stuff. I'm also on Blue Sky,
Oh, I don't
and
know.
yeah, it's kind of like the same Twitter.
Twitter.
It's what I'm going to call it.
Or the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am still on Twitter just because I have just a bunch of followers there. And so I am still posting there, but those are my kind of text-based ones. And then I'm trying to do more video stuff this year. So if you're a person who's into shorts and videos, and I'm going to be posting more on Instagram. I just opened up my channel there to be public. And then also doing shorts on YouTube, and my video is also on YouTube for my podcast every week. So if you're a YouTube person, and then I'm also jumping on the TikTok finally.
Okay, hold on. Wait. I'm getting my phone. Hold on. Okay, wait, hold on. We're all going to the TikTok. I gotta go and get
the TikTok.
I have a TikTok, but I don't put myself out there, Josh. Everything is images and vids. So
yeah.
My AI told me you should put yourself out there more. So
yeah, this is my goal this year too, Daisy, is to just try to be in the places where people are. And so
are you
they can
up to
hopefully
the
hear the
I'm
message.
not finding you.
It should be Josh Allen Dykstra.
Oh, it is. Okay.
You might need my whole name on TikTok. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to find you.
well, definitely following you.
That is too much fun.
That's really new for me. And what I'm going to do there soon in the next week or two is I'm going to start a little behind the scenes journey, unfiltered journey of how do you take a book from idea to book in your hand. I think people might be curious about that. So I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it. I don't even really know yet, but I'll take you on the journey with me. So
well, we are curious because Sharon and I were just talking about something about writing a book as well. So, but we're like, how do we do it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how I'm doing it.
Yeah. What? You can tell us how you're doing it?
Yeah, that's what I'll do on the TikTok. So I'll take you on this journey with me and tell you what I learn. And yeah, because I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to execute it yet, but I've got ideas, but yeah, come along.
Absolutely. Well, I'll follow you anywhere. So that's great. That's really great. Well, it's been wonderful. I think that this opens up. Shannon, hello, Shannon. Oh my gosh, so exciting. I think that it really opens up ideas around what is it that we're trying to accomplish, right? What is it that we want to achieve? So if we take that step back and really understand what is it that we're putting out in the world and why, I think that intention is really the key factor here, right? And when we can hone in on that, I think the technology is amazing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about it that isn't incredible to be able to have this kind of power and abilities that I don't have. I really, truly don't. And so, Shannon, you're absolutely right. The guardrails are going to be critical, not just at an organizational level, but at an individual level. I think that's, what a lot of people talk about with the internet in general or with social media, that there aren't guardrails. That's a complaint that we hear, right? It's kind of a free for all. And we've heard the horror stories with LLMs. The one that comes to mind for me was the one that, and I don't know how much of an urban myth this is, but there seems to be a lawsuit with OpenAI about the guy who killed his parents because the ChatGPT told him to do it because he had some problem to solve. And well, that's not it's not normal in so many ways, right? Somebody that's that gullible, that's going to read something on a screen and do something, could have been influenced in a lot of other ways as well. But how did that even happen? That's a scary situation. So I don't know. I think I am an optimist, Josh. I am I was born this way. I want to look at, the glass half full, and I want to think things are going to be okay. And I want to think that people are going to prevail in the best possible way. It's, how I go through life. And so I hope you're right. I hope that people start to say, listen, I want to be discerning, and I want to do the right thing. And I want to make sure that I'm getting the right information, because it's too easy not to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll just interject, if I may, real quick on that point. There's just a really important, I think, piece here for folks to recognize as citizens. Right. So not even just through organizational channels, but like just as citizens, like making your voice heard, I think is going to be really important in the next 5 years, especially, that, hey, we want these tools to be aligned with humanity. I think that's such a great way to put it. But yeah, we've got to speak up and be kind of courageous, I think, to talk about these things, that this is the kind of the future we want. Because if we don't help make it, right, then other folks will be making these decisions for us.
It's very true. It is very true. And I think for those who are working in organization in leadership roles, let's have these conversations, right? Reach out, right? We want to have them with you, all three of us. We're happy to sit down and have a conversation anytime to say, hey, are you asking the right questions? Are you answering the questions? Are you getting to the heart of what's going on? A friend of mine, and I put it in my nonsense of who I am, but a friend of mine said that they called me the why detective, because when they would, and you guys know this about me, but they would say, can you do this? And I'd say, why do you want to do it? Right? Let's get to the heart of what really is happening, so that they don't order an escalator for a 1-story building. This is going to be the best analogy ever.
Just don't do it. It's not a good idea. You don't need that.
Don't order the escalator when you live in a 1-story building. I think if we walk away with anything today, that is the thing that we're all going to remember, is if you live in a 1-story house, don't order an escalator.
Yeah. Just don't do it. You don't need it.
Just don't do it. We'll change the Nike. Don't do it. Josh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's always great to see you.
Nice.
It's so much fun. We're going to have to do this again, online, offline, the whole thing. Hello Tomorrow is your podcast, and they can find it where?
Yeah, find that on, I think it should be everywhere that podcasts are available, and then also on YouTube.
Fantastic. Okay, great. Yeah. Josh, thank you so much. Daisy, as always, so much fun. And we want to thank you. We're at time. That was it for today. We'll see you next week, same time, on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And have no fear. It's going to be okay. Bye, everybody.